I'm a 28-year-old woman, and what I'm about to share has completely shaken my life. It revolves around my younger sister, Sarah, who's 26, and my now ex-boyfriend, Tom, who's 29. This all unfolded right before Sarah's wedding, turning what should have been a joyous family event into a painful and chaotic mess. At first, things seemed normal. Sarah was busy with her wedding preparations, and I was happy for her, though I started noticing something odd in how she interacted with Tom. It was subtle at first, little things like laughing too much at his jokes, even when they weren't funny, or touching his arm during conversations. I brushed it off, thinking she was just being friendly. But over time, her behavior became more blatant. She would find excuses to be near Tom at family gatherings, always sitting next to him or asking for his help with trivial wedding tasks. Her glances lingered a little too long, and her giggles seemed a bit too eager. It started to make me uncomfortable, and I decided to address it with Tom. One evening, after a family dinner where Sarah had been particularly flirtatious, I brought it up to him. "Did you notice how Sarah was behaving tonight?" I asked. He looked at me confused and said, "What do you mean?" I explained the laughing, the touching, the way she seemed to be constantly around him. He shrugged it off, saying, "I think you're overthinking it. She's probably just excited about the wedding." His response didn't sit well with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Still, I tried to ignore it, hoping I was wrong. But Sarah's behavior only got worse. At a barbecue at my parents' house, I stepped away for a moment, and when I came back, I saw Sarah and Tom standing too close together, talking quietly. The way she looked at him made my stomach churn. When they saw me, they quickly separated, and Sarah walked off as if nothing had happened. That night, I brought it up with Tom again. He insisted they were just talking about wedding details and accused me of reading too much into it. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," he said, clearly frustrated. We argued, going in circles. He didn't see my point, and I didn't believe his nonchalance. The tension between us grew, but I couldn't let it go. I decided to confront Sarah directly. I called her and asked to meet for coffee. When we sat down, I wasted no time. "Sarah, I need to talk to you about something," I said. She looked at me, surprised. I told her I had noticed how she acted around Tom and that it made me uncomfortable. She immediately denied it, laughing it off and calling me paranoid. "Tom is practically family," she said. "You're overreacting." I didn't back down. I pointed out the flirting, the unnecessary touches, and how she always found reasons to be near him. Her demeanor shifted from denial to anger. "Are you really that insecure?" she snapped. She accused me of being jealous and making something out of nothing. The conversation ended with her storming out, leaving me questioning myself. Was I really overreacting? When I got home, I told Tom about the confrontation. He was clearly unhappy about it, saying I shouldn't have approached Sarah like that, especially so close to her wedding. "You're just going to make things worse," he said. His reaction only added to my frustration. "So what? I'm just supposed to ignore it?" I asked. He avoided answering directly, saying we needed to let things settle down. The next few days were tense. Sarah stopped speaking to me entirely, and my parents, noticing the strain, called to ask what was going on. When I tried to explain, they sided with Sarah, saying I was being ridiculous. "She's your sister," my mom said. "She'd never do something like that." I felt like I was losing my mind, isolated and unsupported. A week before Sarah's wedding, I decided to visit my parents' house to try and smooth things over. As I approached, I heard voices coming from the side of the house. Curious, I walked around the corner, and what I saw stopped me cold. There, hidden behind some bushes, were Sarah and Tom. They were locked in a passionate kiss, her arms wrapped around his neck, and his hands on her waist. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. After a few moments, I found my voice and yelled, "What the hell is going on?" They both jumped apart, their faces a mix of shock and guilt. Sarah tried to say something, but I didn't want to hear it. "You're unbelievable," I said, my voice shaking. "Both of you." Tom stammered, "It's not what it looks like." Sarah started crying, saying, "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for this to happen." But their excuses meant nothing to me. I turned and left, ignoring their pleas for me to stop. I got into my car and drove away, tears streaming down my face. When I got home, I packed a bag and sent Tom a text. We're done. Don't contact me again. Then I turned off my phone and left. I needed space to think, away from the betrayal and the lies. I checked into a hotel in a nearby city, feeling completely broken. After a few days of isolation, I realized Mark, Sarah's fiancé, deserved to know the truth. I called him and told him everything. At first, he was silent, and then he thanked me for telling him. I need to think about this, he said, before hanging up. The days leading up to the wedding were eerily quiet. Sarah didn't try to contact me, and my parents stopped calling too. I could only assume that Sarah had somehow convinced everyone to move on, as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I braced myself for the possibility that Mark might choose to ignore what I told him and go through with the wedding. On the day of the wedding, I stayed in my hotel room, trying not to think about what was happening. That evening, my cousin Emma called me, her voice filled with urgency. "You won't believe what just happened," she said. Emma explained that during the ceremony, when it was time for the vows, Mark had stepped forward and told the entire congregation that he couldn't go through with the wedding. He revealed that Sarah had betrayed him and devastated her sister's life by getting involved with her boyfriend. Emma said Sarah turned pale and started crying, and my parents looked completely stunned. Mark apologized to my parents and the guests, saying he couldn't marry someone who could do something so deceitful. Then, without another word, he walked out of the church, leaving Sarah standing alone at the altar. The guests were in shock, and whispers filled the room as people tried to make sense of what had just happened. My parents followed Mark, but Sarah stayed where she was, sobbing. Emma said, "It was like a scene from a movie. Everyone's talking about it now." I listened stunned as Emma continued. "Your parents are furious with Sarah. They're demanding answers, but she's too upset to say anything coherent." After we hung up, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was a sense of vindication knowing the truth was out, but there was also a deep sadness for the chaos and pain this had caused. My relationship with Sarah was shattered, and my family was in turmoil. It wasn't the outcome I wanted, but at least now there was no more hiding. In the following days, the fallout from the wedding disaster was immense. My parents were furious with Sarah, and Mark refused to take her calls. She tried to reach out to me several times, but I ignored her messages. I didn't want to hear any more excuses or apologies. The betrayal had cut too deep, and I wasn't ready to forgive her. Tom, on the other hand, was completely silent. He didn't try to contact me again, which I was grateful for. I didn't want to hear from him either. I focused on moving forward, though it was hard to shake the pain of what had happened. Eventually, my parents reached out to me, wanting to talk. They were still trying to piece everything together and understand how Sarah could have done something so cruel. I agreed to meet them, but I made it clear that I wouldn't be speaking to Sarah anytime soon. When we met, my mom was visibly upset. "I just don't understand," she said. "Why would she do this to her own sister?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. "But it doesn't matter. She made her choices, and now she has to deal with the consequences." My dad nodded solemnly. "Mark was right to walk away," he said. "She brought this on herself." Though my parents seemed to be on my side, there was still a lingering tension. They wanted me to reconcile with Sarah eventually, but I wasn't ready for that. I needed time to heal and figure out how to rebuild my life. Mark and I stayed in touch briefly after everything happened. He thanked me for telling him the truth and admitted that he had been suspicious of Sarah's behavior, but never imagined she would go so far. He said he was grateful to have found out before the wedding and planned to move on with his life. As for Sarah, she continued to try and contact me, but I blocked her number. I couldn't handle any more drama or manipulation. I focused on myself, leaning on my friends and other family members for support. Slowly but surely, I began to feel like myself again. It's been a few months since the wedding that never happened, and I'm in a much better place now. I've cut ties with Sarah and Tom completely and started therapy to work through the betrayal and trust issues. It's not easy, but I'm learning to move forward. Looking back, I'm glad I trusted my instincts and stood up for myself, even when no one else believed me. It was a painful journey, but it taught me the importance of listening to my gut and valuing my own self-respect. While I may never fully repair my relationship with Sarah, I'm at peace with the decisions I made and the steps I've taken to protect myself. This chapter of my life was a difficult one, but I'm determined to keep moving forward, stronger and wiser than before.